Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
You will hear adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And the Paranormal with Jason.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. Oh, and you just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by Strange Monoliths. They're popping up all over the world, and no one seems to know how or where they're coming from. Kind of like our 5-minute mysteries, don't you think? They also have no rhyme or reason. Let's get to today's story.
Police headquarters, Inspector Harris speaking.
Inspector Harris, this is Peter Arnold.
Yeah, what can I do for you?
Inspector Harris, I think I'm going to be murdered.
What?
Just a minute ago, I received an anonymous letter threatening my life.
Have you any idea who it's from?
No.
Where are you now?
I'm at my office in the Acme building, 10th floor.
I'll be right over. Stay right where you are.
Oh, yes, Inspector. Only hurry.
Here's the place, Chief. The Acme building.
Okay.
Hope we're not too late.
Well, if we hurry, we can...
What's the matter, Chief?
Yeah. On the street, little pieces of glass.
Glass? Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Hey, Chief. Look up there. See that broken window?
That's Arnold's office. Come on, Stacy. Something's wrong up there. What's happened up here?
Who are you?
We're the police. I'm Inspector Harris, and this is my assistant, Joe Stacy.
Oh, am I glad you've come. I'm Lois Cranston, Mr. Arnold's secretary.
Yeah?
Something terrible's happened. Mr. Arnold locked himself in this office.
Yes?
And just a minute ago, I heard a shot and then glass breaking.
Come on, Stacy. Help me break down this door.
Okay.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There.
Holy Moses. Look, Chief.
Is anything wrong? And Mr. Arnold.
Will you look at that? A bullet hole right through his head.
And the window's broken. The murderer must have been standing on the roof of that building across the alleyway and fired through this window.
I'm afraid you're wrong.
What do you mean?
I mean that I'm arresting you, Miss Cranston, for the murder of Peter Arnold.
How does the inspector know that Miss Cranston murdered Peter Arnold? We'll give you the solution in just a moment. But first...
Yes, how does he know? In fact, that has to be the least amount of information we've ever had in an FMM. Mr. Arnold calls the police get there, and then he's dead. Not much to work on, and certainly nothing that would implicate his secretary. There is the broken glass clue, but come on now, you have to give us something. Maybe, I don't know, a motive of some kind? Oh well, let's go see what we missed. I'm sure it will be amazing.
And now, back to our story.
Mr. Arnold was shot from outside. The broken glass proves it.
Oh, that's what you've tried to make us believe. No, Miss Cranston. You shot Peter Arnold from this very room, broke the window to make it look like the shooting was done from outside, and then went out and locked the door. It would have been a perfect murder, except for one thing.
What was that?
The broken window. You see, we found the fragments of glass on the street.
Well?
If the bullet had been fired from the outside, the fragments of glass would have gone in the direction of fire. In other words, the glass would have landed inside the room, not on the street. No, Miss Cranston, you murdered Peter Arnold. I don't know why you did it, but we'll soon get the story out of you at headquarters.
Well, at least he admitted the lack of motive, and the broken glass was the only clue. You know, I'm beginning to see a flaw in these mysteries. 5 minutes might not be enough. Maybe they should be, 10 minutes? Oh well, at least they're fun to listen to. This 5-minute mystery was brought to you by strange monoliths everywhere. How or why, who can say? But they really are out there.
What's that you say?
Welcome to the podcast. On the show today, we head back to the home of Sylvia Shults for another round of ghost stories and more. This time, we talk about the monoliths popping up around the world, have stories about strange dreams, some residual hauntings, and we announce the winners of the Halloween contest. Sylvia gives us a peek at her new Lights Out and tells us about the upcoming series of podcasts, the Gettysburg Experience.
Oh, all right, cool. That sounds good.
I'm glad you agree. I received this email from Daniel Watson, who lives and listens to us on the radio in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you to AM 1520 for broadcasting the show. Dan writes, Ron, I love the podcast. It's part of my Thursday routine, which is just a little bit better because of some amazing stories. I've wanted to ask you a question for a while now. You're always talking about pulp mags. I hate to admit it, but I have no idea what that means. I found references to Pulp Fiction, and that's become one of my favorite Travolta movies. But what are the pulp mags? Dan. Well, Dan, first, let me thank you for the nice comments about the show. Pulp magazines, often referred to as the pulps, were inexpensive fiction magazines that were published from 1896 into the late 1950s. The term pulp derives from the cheap wood pulp paper on which the magazines were printed. In contrast to magazines printed on higher quality paper, they were called glossies or slicks. The typical pulp magazine had 128 pages, was 7 by 10 inches, and had ragged, untrimmed edges. The pulp gave rise to the term pulp fiction in reference to the run-of-the-mill, low-quality literature. Pulps were the successors to the penny dreadfuls, dime novels, and short fiction magazines of the 19th century. Although many respected writers wrote for the pulps, the magazines were best known for their lurid, exploitative, and sensational subject matter. Writers have often used fake names to print in these magazines. I hope that answers your question, Dan. It never occurred to me to explain just what these magazines are. Today, they are a wonderful source of public domain stories, and there are literally tens of thousands of tales available out there. Just head to the Gutenberg Project and you'll find them. Thank you for the great question. On the new Tuesday segment of These Are Your Stories, we had one called Haunted. Jim Sweeney from Bennington, Vermont sent in a tale that is both a chiller and a real head-scratcher. You can listen to it by heading to the blog site and simply clicking play. And now, a message from Audible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle. Whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to right now? Iron Man, The Gauntlet by Ian Colfer and narrated by Ari Falkus. In this book, Tony Stark travels to Ireland for an international Echo Summit. He runs into one of his most dangerous enemies and is relieved of his high-tech armor, except for one lone gauntlet. There is comedy, tragedy, explosions galore, imprisonment, escape, redemption, and even melting bridges. Here's a clip from early in the book where Tony flashes back to when he first invented his amazing gauntlets.
Los Angeles, the 1980s, which were not as bad as people think. Tony Stark paced the lacquered wooden floor outside his father's office, chewing one stick of gum after another. For 3 hours, he'd had to hang around waiting for a meeting with his own dad. It was ridiculous. Forcing your only son to wait on a sunny day was, teenage Tony felt sure, against some universal good parenting guidelines. Especially since Tony was about to change the face of Stark Industries forever. All his life, Howard Stark had griped that nobody ever brought him the big idea, and he had to think of everything himself. Now Tony had that big idea in his backpack, and dear old Dad was making him wait while he had lunch with the baby-faced governor of Arkansas. Howard Stark's secretary, Annabelle, sat behind her glossy wooden desk without offering so much as a word of sympathy, or even a glass of water. In fact, the only thing she sent Tony's way was a disapproving glare so heated that Tony felt it was interfering with his elaborate hairstyle. "Come on, Annabelle," he said. "Ease up on the daggers. You're melting my head." Annabelle did not ease up. If anything, her glare grew more intense, and she added a curled lip to the expression. Tony felt he should challenge this blatant antagonism. "Is this about Sissy? Is that what this is about?" Annabelle snapped a pencil between her clenched fists. "My daughter's name is Cecilia, not Sissy." "Hey, she told me Sissy, and I was not about to argue with such a pretty girl. She told me Sissy, so I went with Sissy." Annabelle jumped on that. "You went with her, all right, down to the beach in the middle of the night." "It was 9:30, said Tony. "I wanted to show Cecilia the dolphin that swims into the cove. That was it. Nothing happened. The dolphin didn't even show up." "Maybe nothing happened," conceded Annabelle, "but you have a reputation, Tony. Every mom in Malibu has your name on her watch list." "Come on," objected Tony. "I'm 14. Harmless." Annabelle actually snorted, which was new for the normally demure secretary. "Harmless? Boys like you are never harmless. You are the opposite of harmless." "That would be harmful," said Tony, who had never learned the talent of keeping his mouth shut, even while chewing gum. "That's right," said Annabelle, "and maybe you haven't done any harm yet, but you will." Tony was a little stunned. He had been in this outer office maybe 1,000 times, and all Annabelle had ever said to him was, "Good morning, Master Stark," or, "I'll tell your father you're here, Master Stark." Now it was all laser eyes and insults. Could it be that Annabelle had a point? Could it be that he, Tony Stark, boy genius and all-around charmer, was actually harmful in some way? Every mom in Malibu had his name on a list? They would soon cross his name off that list if they knew what was in his backpack. "Cecilia is a great gal," he said, giving some of his all-around charm a try. "I would never harm her." Annabelle straightened some papers on her desk that already looked pretty straight. "First," she said, "don't call my daughter a gal. This is 20th century California, not the Wild West. Second, maybe you won't harm her, but you probably won't call her either. That's how cruel boys like you operate, isn't it, Master Tony?"
Tony Stark is known throughout the world as many things. Billionaire, inventor, avenger, but mainly for being the invincible Iron Man. This is a great story read by a narrator who obviously loves the Iron Man franchise. The understanding of what makes Tony tick is wonderfully spot on, and in the course of the novel, we get everything that we would expect from a true Tony Stark tale. Plus a couple of really cool innovations like Proto-Tony, a body double AI which embodies Tony's celebrity personality. It is hilarious. This one is fun to listen to, and you can have this book today. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This includes free access to the Audible Plus catalog, which is updated monthly with new titles. To download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can get Iron Man, the Gauntlet. Thank you, Audible. We all love a good story. But what we truly crave is a ghost story. It's time now for Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Sylvia Shults is a librarian and author by day, but at night, she becomes a ghost hunter. Following a lifetime spent in the pursuit of the weird and the strange, her non-fiction works include Ghost of the Illinois River, Fractured Spirits, 44 Years in Darkness, Hunting Demons, and The Spirits of Christmas. We now cross over the veil and join Sylvia as she tells us more tales from the unknown. Are you there, Sylvia?
I'm here. Come on in, Ron.
Welcome, welcome.
Wait. I'm not coming in until I get the answer to a question.
What?
Do you have any monoliths in your house? You know they're getting everywhere now.
They are, but I have not yet had one show up in my backyard or at the Oasis. So I think we're safe.
Okay, I don't know what these things are, but they're showing up all over the world.
I had no idea there were that many.
Well, here, do you want me to give you the short list?
Yeah, let's find out where these crazy things are.
So far, for those of you who don't know, there's been these metal sculptures popping up all over the world that no one can explain where they're coming from. And it isn't just isolated to the United States or Europe, or it's all over the place. So I'm going to give you the fast list. Are you ready?
Lay it on me.
In Europe, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Romania, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and the Ukraine. Those are just Europe. Now, let's do North America, shall we?
Let's do.
All right. Canada, California, Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Texas, and Utah. Okay? And then in other places, Australia, Panama, Colombia, and Paraguay. Now, my question is this. If this is a hoax, which most people say it is, that is one big hoax.
It's big and it's organized.
It's just crazy. And they just show up and people find them. And now, I last week on the podcast, I did this little bit that there was a guy in New York that made one himself, had one commissioned. And he made one himself and put it in front of one of his candy shops just to draw business in. But he said people came from all around and put their hand on it, like 2001, A Space Odyssey. It's just crazy stuff, and they're just showing up everywhere. I don't know if we're ever going to find out what they are or who's doing it, but it certainly is intriguing, and it makes you wonder if 2001, A Space Odyssey is coming true.
Well, you know what? This world needs more mysteries like that.
Yes.
That's my philosophy on it. The world needs more mysteries.
And you know, if it is all a hoax, I support the hoax. I really do.
I'm fine with it.
I think it's great. I really do. And if you want to know more about it, all you got to do is type in Monolith 2020 and you will get your eye full.
You'll get your fill of it.
But it is interesting. And the way people find them, they go out on hikes and and there they are, or they, they're driving around in dune buggy, and boom, there it is. It's just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Love it. Love it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Sylvia, we have an email.
Ooh.
We haven't had one for a couple times now, and I'm glad that we've got one this time.
I am really glad about that. Let's read it. Let's see what somebody has to say.
This one is unique. At first, when I read this, I thought, ooh, I don't know if Sylvia is going to want to answer this. But when I showed it to you, you went nuts.
I did.
And I think it's great that you're interested in it. So let's get to it. It's kind of a longer email, so.
But it's worth it. It's worth sharing every bit of it. It really is.
It is. All right, here we go. This comes from Eleanor Greathouse, and she lives in San Bernardino, California. So just south of me. Well, quite a bit south of me.
Ah.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Hello, Ron. I love the show and love ghost stories. I have a question for Sylvia that I'm not sure she will answer. My father just passed away. It was sudden and very peaceful, just the way he would want to go. My family says that I am just being emotional, but I believe I saw him at the funeral. We were lucky enough to have it just before the recent shutdown. We were all graveside, and I looked up. There was a man standing there about his height and build. When I looked again, he was gone. It isn't so much that it looked like him, but I felt him. Was my father at his own funeral? Or did I just wish that to be true? I bet you get 100 requests, and I know you probably won't read this, but I would love to know what you guys think. Eleanor. Well, you're right, Eleanor. I would never read this on the show.
You are such a joker.
I am.
Well, Eleanor, thank you so very much for sharing your experience with me, with us. I'm sorry for your loss. I lost a parent this year as well, and it's rough. No matter how old you are, it's rough, and you're going to miss him. But what a wonderful experience to be lucky enough to see him there as you celebrated his life. That's just amazing. And I wish we could all have that experience. That's just simply a gift. From what I have heard psychic mediums say, and from everything I've read about mediums telling about their special gift, they say that yes, pretty much everybody does show up to their own funeral. I don't think it has anything to do with the way the person passed, although I agree with your dad. I mean, sudden and peaceful, that is absolutely the way to go. And when my time comes, I hope it's much the same. But yes, people do show up to their funerals. Sometimes psychic mediums have reported that people look around and say, well, gosh, I thought so-and-so would be here. They're not here. Or they say, oh, wow, look at all these people who showed up to my funeral. Wow. And it's just a way for them to get closure too. It's not only for us to say goodbye, it's for them to say goodbye before they go on to their next adventure too. So thank you so very much, Eleanor, for sharing that with us. I am very moved by your story, and I appreciate your sharing it.
Well, let me just say that about this is that I have some thoughts on it as well. Mm-hmm. And my thoughts are a little different. To me, It doesn't matter if he was there or not. It was the fact that you felt him there. And I think that when you're at a funeral, isn't that what we want? Is to be able to not only remember them, but feel what it was like to be with them. Mm-hmm. And that closure that we get saying, okay, now I can truly say goodbye. 3 funerals for me really stand out. And the first was my grandmother. She passed away. It wasn't a good passing. It was a struggle.
I'm sorry.
It was hospice and a lot of pain, misery. It wasn't a good thing. And so when she finally did pass, it was a relief for not just her, I'm sure, but a release for our family to see her finally, out of her misery, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I remember the funeral vividly. And I remember sitting there and listening to the people talking and bringing up, her life and whatnot. And I remember feeling hollow, like somehow it just wasn't done. And I know that that's a weird feeling, but I never got over it. It just felt wrong. The whole thing felt wrong. Now, the second funeral was someone I didn't know very well. I was asked to be a pallbearer, and I have no idea why. She was a good friend of my mother's, but I was asked to come and to be the pallbearer. It was an open casket. And I remember being there at that funeral, and all I remember about it was just the peace, the serenity of the whole thing, how everybody there was talking about it, and it was just a completely different feel. It felt complete, like this was the end of this person's life. And maybe it was because it was open casket, and I saw her, and she looked like she was asleep. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know her very well, but I still could feel just everybody there, the mood, the way the things went. It was just peaceful. The third funeral was my dad's. And to me, that was by far the best a funeral could be. Yeah. He was a veteran of World War II, Korea, and just the pageantry of it all. The guns, it wasn't a 20-gun salute, but there was a gun salute. My nephew was there in full dress uniform and presented my mom the flag. And the whole thing, it just felt like, here's this man, this is what he did for his country, and we honor that. And that, again, it felt like closure, like I could let him go.
Oh, wow.
Because I could just feel him looking down going, yeah, you betcha. They fired guns for me. Yeah. And that's how I felt about that funeral. Now, I think a funeral for each person's different. And whether or not you want to consider any of that paranormal, I don't think you have to. I think it is all in the perception and how you feel at the end. And I think that's all I have to say.
I would agree with that.
And I don't know if that was more than you wanted, Eleanor, but that's something that I had, when I read your story, it just brought back those three funerals and how different they were. Everything from not good to peaceful to just joyful. And I know none of that makes any sense. And I know it doesn't help you with your question, but there you go. So, Eleanor, thank you for sending in your email. I really appreciate it. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about the hundreds of requests. We don't get hundreds of requests here at Ron's Amazing Stories, and I would love for that to happen. So if you have questions for Sylvia or myself or Jason, don't hesitate. Please send them in. And if you have a story you want to tell, do that too, because we want to talk about it.
We definitely do.
Now, having said that, I've got a story for you there, Sylvia. What do you think about that?
Oh, I can't wait. You know how much I love stories.
Well, I have titled this one tentatively The Bishop's House.
Okay.
And it comes from, I didn't make this up, Sonia Black from Derry, New Hampshire.
Okay.
You ready for it, Sylvia?
Let's do it.
All right. This is in her own words. About 25 years ago, my husband and I were in Iowa to attend a family wedding, staying at a Victorian bread and breakfast called the Bishop's House. When we reserved the room, we were told, I thought, it was called the Roman Chamber. But what exactly was Roman about it wasn't very evident. It was very beautiful, with a fireplace, stained glass windows, antique furnishing, and an amazing original marble shower in the bathroom. Unfortunately, the first of the 3-day weekend was almost impossible for me to fall asleep in the huge ornate bed, but I chalked that up to excitement over the wedding and being in an unfamiliar surroundings. Saturday, after the wedding and reception, we returned to our room exhausted. I fell asleep as soon as I laid down. Then the dreams began. In them, I saw a very angry man leaning over me, demanding to know why I was in his bedroom. He said, "Don't you know what a scandal it would be if I found a woman in my bed?" I woke up absolutely terrified because the experience was so real, and maybe slept 15 minutes the rest of the night. I didn't want to get yelled at again. The next morning, I told my husband about my experience. He just said I had a vivid imagination, or maybe just too much cake and champagne. Sunday was our last day, and after breakfast we got to talking with the B&B hosts. They filled us in on the long history of the house. It's currently owned by St. Ambrose University. However, previously it was the residence of a Catholic bishop of Davenport, hence the name the Bishop House. Then they showed us a book of clippings. I literally fell out of my chair and lost it. I saw the photo of my night visitor, Bishop Henry Rollman, who served from 1927 through 1944 and occupied the very room we'd been spending our nights in. Henceforth, the room was named in his honor the Rollman Chamber, not the Roman Chamber.
Okay.
Sonia Black, Derry, New Hampshire. Well, Sonia, that is a fantastic story if I've ever heard one. And I'm waiting for Sylvia's response to that glorious piece of story you sent in. I loved it.
I loved it too, and I was giggling because when she said that the nighttime visitor said, "Do you know what a scandal it would be to find a woman in a room?" It reminded me of a story a friend of mine shared with me. He is a psychic medium, and he would when he lived in Illinois, he would visit a gentleman's club out in the country, and this club was built on land that used to be a farm. And my friend David said that he would regularly see the old farmer, whose farm it used to be, wandering around this club. And there was one time David was sitting at the bar, and the fellow came and sat next to him and looked around and just total consternation with the way he usually did. And he said, "There's all these half-dressed women around here. You better get these women out of here before my wife finds out about these half-dressed women. She's gonna kill me." Or something to that effect. And it was just this poor farmer who didn't realize that his former farmhouse was now the site of a club where goings-on were happening. Oh, goodness. But I think a bishop would be more concerned about some strange woman sleeping in his bed. Wow.
Well, when I heard that story, I thought that's one that Sylvia has got to hear, because it is by far a classic.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sonia.
Yes, Sonia Black from Derry, New Hampshire. Thank you very much for that story. Now, I know, Sylvia, you have 2 stories for us today.
Yeah, I do have a couple. I was thinking about which stories I was going to tell tonight, and it seems to me that a lot of ghost stories come from places, of course, that they happen in the middle of the night, and a lot of these things are when the employees of the building are there, like night watchmen and custodians and people like that are there in the building when it's dark and quiet and not many people around. That's when a lot of paranormal activity happens and is witnessed because it's so quiet and not a lot of things are going on. So this first story, we are calling this first story Quittin' Time. There's a fellow named Phil Peterson who used to work for the West Lynn Paper Company in Oregon as part of the custodial service.
Very familiar with that.
Well, there you go. In one evening while he was working there, he heard voices coming from a basement room that he knew was empty. So he went and found a security guard to go and check it out with him. They both heard one male voice ask what time it was. They heard another voice reply that it was time to go home. Peterson looked at the clock on the wall, and sure enough, it read 5 o'clock. The thing was, the clock wasn't plugged in. Just random weirdness.
You know, those kinds of stories, you just kind of go, huh.
Yeah. Huh. It's just like they're going on about their business, and doesn't matter to them that 50, 60 years have passed. They're just doing their thing.
Okay, so let me ask you, would that be considered a residual haunting or a active haunting or
an intelligent haunting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard to say.
I'd go residual myself, kind of repeating.
It probably would be residual because they're not interacting with the living person.
No, just kind of something that probably happened several times and maybe just imprinted itself there.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I thought so.
Yeah. All right, you got a second one, and I think you call this one The Echoes of the Past.
Yeah. Now, this story comes to us from Saratoga County, New York. There was Lake Avenue Elementary School, and the school was built in 1925. This is 2 years after the farmhouse that had stood on the land was torn down. So the farmhouse came down in 1923. The school bought the land. They built the school in 1925. Two of the custodians that worked at the school, guys named Paul and John, they did some research and they located the building's original 1923 blueprints when the school was first designed, and discovered that only the superstructure of the Andrews house had been knocked down. The fellow that owned the house, Captain James Andrews, was a staunch abolitionist, and his house was an active station on the Underground Railroad. So he used his cellar to hide runaway slaves. So the cellar hole, they discovered that the cellar hole and the foundation was still there underneath the concrete floor of where the school's auditorium now stands. So these custodians were showing author David Pitkin, who wrote a book on haunted Saratoga County. They're showing him around the school, and they took him to the auditorium to see what he thought of the whole thing. They told the author, walk down that left aisle. He said, tell me if you notice anything. So Pitkin did a slow walk, and about 20 feet down the aisle of the auditorium, he noticed a slight shift in air temperature and smell. It got a little cooler, and there was kind of a slight musty scent in the air. Keep walking, Paul said. And in about another 20 feet, Pitkin suddenly emerged from that area of musty smell and coolness. He turned around and retraced his steps and experienced the same phenomena again, just within those invisible boundaries. Then John and Paul showed Pitkin where the architect had noted the exact location of the old cellar hole under the auditorium on those blueprints from 1923 that they found. The boundaries of the musty smell and cool sensation were exactly identical to what he'd experienced walking down that auditorium aisle.
How's that possible?
That's the residual area of the building.
No, I think I was trying to be facetious there.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be possible.
It shouldn't be, but yeah, these custodians have been working in that place, 5 nights a week, maybe 4 nights a week for how many years?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not a kid running around. They're not a teacher harried looking after the classes. They've got all that time just to clean and just to experience the building. So they're going to notice shifts like that in their environment.
So as a ghost hunter, when you're out there doing your job, is it easy to determine a residual haunting from an active intelligent haunt? Or is it sometimes convoluted?
Well, basically we say that if there's something that repeats itself over and over, like a recording, that's definitely a residual.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is something intelligent there, if you ask a question and you get a response, or if you say, please come closer and light up my meter, and they do it, that's probably an intelligent haunting.
But what I'm talking about, I guess, let me try the question in a different way.
Okay.
When you're in the middle of it and you see an apparition coming down the stairs, do you immediately think intelligent haunt, or do you go, I'm looking at a projection, I'm looking at something that's replaying? Is that even possible?
Well, I think if you asked a dozen paranormal investigators that, you'd probably get 13 different responses.
I thought that would be your answer. I really did.
Yeah.
Because how would you know? In the moment, you would be, elated, terrified, and maybe needing some new underwear. What is it that you do at that moment? How do you stay calm and try to piece together an investigation?
It's not always easy. There are people who get kind of jumpy about things, and there are people who say, well, show me more. Mm-hmm. Show me something else you can do. I'm one of those. I want to get every experience that I can. And when you're in the moment like that, it's really difficult to say whether it's a residual or an intelligent haunting.
But what do you do?
Basically, you try to keep calm. You try to ask follow-up questions. If something's responding to you, you try to keep that communication going as long as you can. And if you are lucky enough to see anything, don't freak out.
Yeah, see, this is why I could never be a ghost hunter, because I would go right from, oh my gosh, that's a ghost, and out of there.
You do the Scooby-Doo thing, huh?
Yeah. And I'm gone.
It'd be Shaggy jumping into Scooby's arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the one who, I stand my ground and I wait for something more to happen because I want as many things to happen as possible.
I get that. That.
Yeah. And as to whether it's residual or intelligent, that really comes when you review the evidence and you do a little more research on what you've just interacted with.
Well, it's always just something. And again, if you go off what the ghost hunting shows would have you believe, I just have a feeling that it's completely different when you're actually there and happening.
Oh, it is. It is.
And maybe I wouldn't run out in terror. I don't know, but I don't really want to.
If you were with me, you wouldn't.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. I might grab onto you and throw you in front of it, but I don't know that I would run away.
I've been lucky enough to investigate one place so often that I kind of carry that calmness and that familiarity with me when I go to other places, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm just so fascinated with the idea of communication that I want to keep that communication going as long as I possibly can. I'm the one who asks questions. I'm the one who invites ghosts to come sit next to me and have a chat. So I'm very, very lucky in that regard, in that I can take that calmness and that familiarity and bring it with me to other places.
So I'm looking at our 3 stories today. The Bishop House. Now that obviously is not a residual or an intelligent haunt. Don't know what that is. Quitting Time and Echoes of the Past, I think, were both residual. That's how they felt to me.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, thank you for taking a minute and talking about that. I know I go off the rail quite a bit, but I thought that was a worthy off the rail.
I think so.
All right. Well, so Sylvia, the last time we got together, we had a Halloween contest, and you are ready to give the update.
All right. So yes, the update on the Halloween contest. The way we started out the contest was this. There are many ghost stories associated with the Heathman Hotel in Portland, Oregon.
My hometown.
Most of the paranormal activity seems to be centered around room 703. Guests check into the room, unpack, and go about their business. When they return, they sometimes find a half-filled glass of water on the desktop, or a towel has been taken off of the towel rack and put on the counter as if someone has used it. In September of 1999, a psychic concluded that the spirit energy was concentrated from room 303 to 1003, and that includes room 703. And my question for the audience was, why would this be? Why would the supernatural activity be concentrated just in those rooms? And the answer is, the psychic's theory was that a guest committed suicide by jumping out of the window of 1003 and is haunting the rooms he passed on his way to the ground.
Wow. All right. So I know we had, well, I'm going to let you talk about the winners.
Okay. We actually had 2 people that came in with the right answer, and they are Janice Brendable and Julie Ann Sparks. And I will be contacting each of those lovely people and telling them about their prize, the prize that they have won.
Well, I think it's great that you went ahead with 2 winners because their answers were dead spot on.
Exactly. And, yeah. How could I could have tossed a coin, but we've got.
No, I think you did right. I think
fine.
You did the perfect thing. And so having 2 winners gives us twice the fun.
Exactly.
All right. So just to repeat, so Sylvia is going to contact you too and get your information and talk to you about your stuff.
Swag.
So thank you for everyone that submitted an answer to Sylvia's question. I really appreciate that. And to the 2 winners, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to the winners. And thank you so much to everyone who wrote in.
Well, Sylvia, we're getting to that time. Let's talk about Lights Out and the blog. And we'll start with the blog this time. Your most recent was published on December 7th. Now, why December 7th? And was there a reason that you published on December 7th?
Well, I always try to make my blog posts, my Today I Learned, a little topical, and if I have something for a certain date and that date happens to fall on a Monday, why, I just go ahead and put that in. So December 7th, of course, it's Pearl Harbor Day, and we remember that for and honoring the men who perished at Pearl Harbor in the attack. But December 7th also marks something much sweeter than the attack on Pearl Harbor. 50 years before, it was decided that December 7th was going to be Cotton Candy Day. And that was thought up by a dentist of all people.
Yes. John C. Wharton and dentist William Morrison. Now, dentist really bothers me on that one.
I know. I just thought it was so crazy that a dentist would promote cotton candy like that with its own national holiday that I just had to post that. I just thought that was just an interesting thing to learn.
Yeah, it's a good one. Now, on Lights Out, the podcast, you took another visit to the Queen of Heaven, but this time you visit the mausoleum. And let me tell you, folks, I have seen some art in my day. But when you see what they did in this mausoleum, everything from deer to full scenes of just life in a village, this place is phenomenal.
It is just simply breathtaking and amazing. It is huge. It's this massive structure that was the first thing I thought when I walked around it was marble art and dead people. And yes, some of the art is just exquisite. That deer drinking out of the trough, and it's just so pretty. And did you see that picture of, you have to look at it more than just a couple seconds, but it was the one with the white and the red and yellow and blue, and it looks like the bridge of a spaceship, but it's actually the savior with his arms outstretched, and it's very futuristic. And I had to take a picture of that. But the first thing
I'm going to have to go back and look at that again.
The first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, why did they put a spaceship in a mausoleum? But if you look at it closely, it's the savior with his arms stretched out in a white robe and just markings of blue and red and color and vivaciousness. And yes, that other picture in one of the chapels was Mary and Joseph in their home in Nazareth, and a little 8-year-old Jesus running around. It was just beautiful, adorable.
Well, so I'm going to tease something to get people to listen to the podcast.
Oh, please do.
All right. So there's a section in there where Sylvia hears disembodied music and follows it. Does she find something? Or is it just a choir? You'll have to watch the podcast and find out.
And it really is beautiful music. It was worth following.
Anyway, so what have we got coming up on Lights Out? Do you got something coming up soon?
I am very excited about this. I have made 2 trips to Gettysburg in the past year, and I have put together several episodes around the evidence that I collected and the experiences I had in that magnificently haunted town. So I am coming up on the 100th episode of Lights Out. My little baby podcast is up to 100 episodes almost. And I decided to count up or count down or count to that 100th episode by doing a series of episodes set in Gettysburg.
Ending with something pretty spectacular, I hope.
Man. Oh, yeah. Wait till you hear it. It's going to be amazing. So the next episode coming up is the Sachs Bridge. We're going to start at the end of the battle and work our way up to the climax.
Wow. It sounds fantastic.
So Sachs Bridge is the on the road that the Confederates took out of town as they retreated.
You know, that place is on my bucket list. I've said it before, and I really mean it. I've heard so many crazy stories.
It's amazing.
People are just moved when they just show up and look over the battlefield. It's just an incredible place.
It's making my knees weak just remembering what an amazing place that is. You and I should go together sometime.
I'd love to go. I really would.
Yeah, I went there for the first time, and it just rocked my world. And then I had the opportunity to go back again, and I jumped on it. I said, I have to go back there. And I'm hoping, if the stars align, I'm hoping to get back there next summer. Around the time of my birthday, there is a big paranormal conference there that I'm hoping to be able to attend.
Well, COVID willing, I hope you get to go. Well, Sylvia, I've got some bad news now.
What's that?
We run out of time.
Oh, again?
Yeah, it happens. Every time we do this, we run out of time.
time does march on.
Yeah, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us yet again. And we look forward to your next week's blog. And of course, Lights Out.
Gettysburg Experience. I want to share this experience with you guys, and I welcome you coming along on this, and I am going to show you everything I possibly can, and you're welcome to accompany me on this Gettysburg journey.
So, Lights Out and the Gettysburg Journey. Well, Sylvia, I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay.
And head out the door here. You sure there's no monoliths around here anywhere?
Don't trip over the monolith on your way out.
All right, I'll be careful.
Have a lovely evening, Ron.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Ghost Stories with Sylvia was brought to you by Gladys Goodies. Great treats for your dogs to eat. I always have a great time talking with Sylvia, and I learn all kinds of new stuff. If you want to visit her on her own turf, head to sylviashults.wordpress.com. There you will find her blog and access to the podcast, Lights Out. I will have links available in the show notes. Thank you, Sylvia. GladysGoodies.com does have great treats for your pets to eat. Their treats are a great source of vitamins for your pet and are made from 100% natural ingredients. You can get these treats and some really cool swag for your dog and cat at GladysGoodies.com. And don't forget to use our very own promo code, RONS, that's RONS, to get a 20% discount on all your purchases. That website again is GladysGoodies.com.
This is the year of the lark. The lark is the car of the year. Look what's new for you from the lark. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. It's a new convertible, seats 5 adults in style. It's so pert and perky, runs on pennies per mile.
The Lark by Studebaker, yours in 6 stunning styles for $60, including the new convertible and...
Look what else is new for you. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. It's a new Lark wagon with 4 convenient doors, and it's style for fun and frolic, but it's built for chores.
Look at the Lark yourself. Learn how it's been proven by 750 million miles of owner use. Visit your Studebaker dealer and see how nothing has been spared to build quality into the Lark. Discover why it's the value car of the year.
The Lark is the car of the year.
Was episode number 470, and Jim Sweeney, Daniel Watson, Eleanor Greathouse, Sonia Black, and Sylvia Shults were the people in the neighborhood. Thank you, guys. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.